Voices in Entertainment podcast is where industry insiders talk openly about how they broke into the world of entertainment. Get real stories, practical advice, and the lessons learned from leaders across the globe. It's an essential guide for this next generation who are ready to become the new voices in entertainment. So welcome to the Voices in Entertainment podcast, brought to you by the Global Entertainment Awards. We're here at the Cannes Film Festival at the Members Club. We're going to be talking to Kenny Gravillis. Thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Well known for creating many marketing assets for the film and television industry.
Yes, sir.
Just give us a quick 2-minute wrap up of who you are, what you do, and how you got here.
So we have a creative agency in Los Angeles. There's about 30 of us, and we get hired by the likes of Universal and Warner Brothers, HBO, Sony, to really come up with the visual identity, you could call it, of films and TV. So it's basically, everything that marketing uses to promote the film, whether it's like the poster, the trailer, social assets. So we get charged to create that stuff. So fun gig, fun job.
How did you get into that side of the industry?
Okay, so I'll start off with this. So my background is actually music. So I was lucky enough in 1989, April, to start working at Def Jam Records in New York, designing album covers. So I was very lucky. I was 21 years old, and it was an amazing time. I'm from London originally, and I was into Depeche Mode and Flying Young Cannibals and Simply Red, and all of a sudden I was working on LL Cool J and Public Enemy.
Amazing.
So it was a really amazing time, and that's where to be honest, I think the one thing about Def Jam I'd say at that time, because it was starting out, was just how authentic Def Jam was. Def Jam wasn't trying to actually sell anything. Def Jam were taking their artists and expressing who their artists were, like, unapologetically. And I think like that has sort of stayed with me even as I've gotten like my own company down the years. But that was the beautiful thing about Def Jam. My quote unquote claim to fame when I worked there is that I designed the cover for Ready to Die, which is like the Biggie album cover. So obviously, when we designed that album cover, we didn't realize it was going to be a thing. And that's the sort of beautiful thing about art. You don't necessarily realize it's going to be a thing when you're doing it. It's just about the impact that it has later on is something that you can't really, you can't plan for. It just kind of happens. But anyway, that was my beginnings, I should say. And I did that for a long time. I did that for like Def Jam was 5 years. Then I went to MC Records for another 5 years, where I worked on The Roots and Erykah Badu and Common. So I got a chance to work with really super cool artists. And we started our company in 2000, actually. So this year will be 25 years coming up.
Wow. How many times, I was trying to wrap 2 questions up here. So how many times do you end up making a poster that sometimes might not truly reflect the movie, but is there
100%. It happens all the time. So you might have heard that saying. It's like, oh, so there's the movie you shoot, there's 3 movies in one. There's the movie you shoot, the movie you edit, and the movie you market. 3 different movies. Like that. That's why they say that. You know what I mean? Because it's, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of times you have to figure out what your positioning is, what your lane is. Like we just, we did recently Sinners, and when they first started marketing that movie, you really didn't know much about the vampires. It wasn't like, because they didn't want it to fall into being like just a vampire movie. So that wasn't the positioning, that came in sort of later as people started to get to know more about the film. And I thought that was a smart move. Like I thought it was smart not to just because it was so much more than just that. So, you have to decide on what lane you're going to be in. you know. So that's why, you know, it wasn't, you know, we didn't see MBJ as a vampire like on the poster. Do you know
So what happens when a poster goes wrong? As in, let me try. What makes a poster go wrong? What do you see sometimes?
For me personally, I feel like what makes a poster go wrong is it doesn't what's the word? It doesn't have identity. Like it's sort of, so here's this thing, what I call the genre trap. So the genre trap is this, like in Hollywood specifically, we kind of we need to know like what type of film it's gonna be, right? Like, oh, is this a horror? Is this a thriller? Is this a comedy, right? So all those things have, you know, certain tells. You know what I mean? Like just marketing wise, like, okay, this looks like a comedy or this looks like a thriller. And I think a lot of times that can like cannibalize itself. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, even if you see something that looks cool, it's kind of like, yeah, I've sort of seen that before though. Okay. Do you know what I mean? And it's sort of, so I think with streaming and the combination of all the streamers that have come in, I think there's a little bit of cannibalization creatively, marketing wise, you know, because I think that there's just not enough risks being taken. And a lot of times, I think there's so much content being come out, things are having to come out so quickly. A lot of times there isn't time to try to find that unique POV of a project. Right. You know, especially when it comes to streamers, I think, because they're putting out so much. So a lot of times things are just defaulting to sort of like genre specific things that are pretty safe. And it's like, and it isn't like that's necessarily bad, but it also doesn't like push any envelope, or it doesn't like, again, it doesn't become memorable. If that makes sense.
I mean, sometimes you see artwork that's based around, you know, character imagery.
Yeah.
And obviously that's always a draw, or a way to showcase your cast.
Yeah.
And then you see people doing the same with unknowns, and I think, well, why are you?
Yeah. What does that help you? Because to be honest, even some you know, superstars don't necessarily always sell a film anymore. Just like by seeing their faces, you know. Like, it's not like, you know, there's been plenty of films that have come out where you've been like, okay, we're going to pop the star's face on there, and it hasn't really done it, you know? So I think the audiences are just way more savvy now as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, do you think the rise of streaming services in the past 10 years has made it harder because people look at that
100%
that slide for such a short period of time? Look, we used to go to the cinema when we were younger, and you'd stand in a queue and there'd be a massive poster, and you'd 100%. Analyze and you'd see all the smaller 100%. Details.
Yeah, now it's it feels a little more throwaway, you know? And that's why it's beautiful when a project like Sinners, for instance, does happen, where it's almost like a project that like pushes you back to the cinema. You know, like kind of pushes you back into the theatrical experience. I think that's a little bit why when things like that happen. I think it happened a couple of years ago when Top Gun Maverick came out, and it did so. You know, that movie is considered was one of the movies that saved, you know, the movie business, because, you know, it was a time when people weren't really going to the movies, and, you know, people came out for that. And I think, you know, big studios always, I think, will continue to do that. You know, I really do. It just needs to happen more than it does.
So talking to someone who is making their own short, perhaps, or their first film, or so here's the big question.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to save the big question. Here's a question. Here's a question. So, is the director of an independent film who's doing it on their own the right person to sit down and go, you know what, I'm going to make my own poster?
Well, here's the thing. You know, I'm a big believer in, you know, hey, someone's got to do it, right? Do you know what I'm saying? If the budget's not there, like, you got to figure it out. I think and I've had many conversations about this, but always my advice to any young filmmakers that like, you have to like get assets for your film. Like, while you're shooting it, you need a photographer. You can't afford him obviously, I'm not saying it needs to be every day, but you need like some days, or a day at least, where you're like, okay, we're gonna shoot like whatever it is. It's like the cast, you know, a tree that has meaning, whatever is in there that means something, we need to shoot. we're not. I don't talk about screen grabs. Okay, if I hear everyone talk about screen grabs are not great. Okay, they're not what posters are supposed to be made out of. Yes, it happens all the time, but no, it is not ideal. You want an actual, real photography, megapixels, shooting imagery, and that's always what I would say. So if you have it, so when once you've wrapped, at least you have those photos that someone or you can actually do something with.
So when does poster design start?
Well, depending on, like, for instance, like for really big movies, poster design starts before the movie's even shot. It's, we're already getting the script, before production started, and we're already coming up with ideas to shoot while they're in production.
Right.
Yeah, that's for a big movie. For smaller movies, we're getting the film, and we're hoping that there's a unit photographer that's shot.
Oh, right, okay.
Because if not,
you're just getting
and guess not. And if they didn't shoot, then what are we doing? You know what we're doing?
Going and shooting something.
No, we're using screen grabs, mate.
Oh, right. So is that the eye roll? Is that the eye roll moment?
So the first question that you ask when someone shot their film is, "Do you have any assets?" And and most of the times they say, "Yeah, there was some BTS."
Oh gosh.
And you're just like, yeah, well, it's not really going to help us, is it? Like, photos of you talking to the actor, not going to really help us in positioning this film. Do you know what I mean? So, first thing, man, I don't care what you do, shoot something. Like with your iPhone even, shoot anything. But yeah, so that happens all the time. So we'll get a film, and hopefully if they've had unit photography, a lot of times people get it and they do unit photography, and then that's what we'll use, and we'll that's what the assets we'll have, and that's what we'll play with.
But it sounds like you've already got a formula running, because anybody coming out of university from an art school perspective or getting started, there is those people who probably would be interested in doing something for low budget work, and it's okay to introduce people who haven't done this before. And maybe that's a really cool thing, and you can bring them on at a really early stage.
100%. Yeah. No, it's super important, man. Like, I think the more you think about how you're going to market your film, I know it's hard to say this, and it sounds a little bit like, oh, but, isn't it messing with the purity of my art form? But you need to think about how you're going to market the film before you shoot it. Because guess what? Okay, how about this? I look at it like this. So, as designers, right, we can make stuff, and if we're not working with a client, if we're not working with like a studio, once, like the very first round of work, I always tell these guys, it's our round, because like it's us expressing, putting our work out there. After that, it's all collaboration, right? Because it's, after, like, if I make something great and I think it's amazing, if I don't have an amazing client that looks at it and says, yeah, I get it, I'm going to put it up, send it up top, then it's dead. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we have to make work that makes sense for the studio as well. Like, it can't, like, a lot of designers sometimes they get into their heads like, but this is an amazing piece of work. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not selling the movie, it's not communicating the right thing. Like, it's beautiful, but it's not like a marketing exec at any Hollywood agency, like, will have 3 posters, and 2 of them will be works of art, but communicate the wrong thing, and the other one will look shoddy as all hell, but communicate the right thing. Right. They'll always go with that one, the one that communicates the right thing, because it isn't necessarily beauty first. The perfect conundrum, of course, is beauty, iconic messaging, you know what I mean? But that messaging part is massively important.
So so that whole art, so someone okay, here's my big question. I'm going to ask the AI question. Ooh,
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
I'm gonna say, do you think AI presents a how can I put this? Let me just give me a second to craft this question. Do you think AI is actually enabling people to do so much that they don't necessarily have the experience to do. Does that make sense? Right. Look, if I'm a director, I might feel, well, I can use AI to make my own poster.
For sure you can.
But that just plays straight into what you've just said.
Yeah,
I can make something that looks awesome, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work.
Okay, I'll give you my 2-minute AI breakdown, right?
Yeah.
So years ago, I don't know, 20 years ago maybe, we worked on an album cover for this boy band called Immature. They're R&B boy band. And they did this Beatles thing where we shot them on a tarmac coming off a plane, right? Like, did the whole photo shoot, the whole thing. And then, you know, there was questions about it, if that should be the cover or not. And someone in finance said, hey, I don't know about Photoshop. I don't use it, but it's amazing, right? I mean, we can just put them in a boat.
Okay.
Like, literally, that's what he said. We can just put them in a boat. So, and I looked at him and I was like, no, we really fucking can't put them in a boat. And what I realized, that's like AI to me right now.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is just like, oh my God, AI, we can just do everything we can do. It's like, it's the answer to everybody's prayers. I think creatively, it is a tool that eventually we'll figure out how to use as a tool.
Yeah.
Right? I see AI being the most powerful in what I call the middle. So first, we need ideas. We need like human sort of inspiration, right? But then there is a time of process and development. And that's why I believe AI will help. But guess what? At the end of that, there's got to be something called nuance. And guess what? Human inspiration comes back. So I believe it's going to be the middle part that eventually gets figured out and used as a tool to help push the process along, speed it up, give us more options. But it's not this like, oh, bammo, here's this amazing thing, you know, we're done, you know? I think AI is going to be used in different areas and can have massive input. Creatively, however, though, I do think, you know, like it will never quite hit nuance.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, your consumer is a human.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, AI will, how can I mean, obviously there's metrics and there's going to be a big argument about this, I'm sure, but at the end of the day, you really want to bring in the human element and the human testing.
You know what, I have this joke with my designers, like in a meeting when we're talking about any project, and maybe you like, I don't know, you've sort of like missed the boat on direction and you're not really sure. You know what you bring up in the meeting? I think we need human element. Human element is like the absolute buzzword to get people back on track. And it's like, yeah, we need human element because we always need it. We always need human element. It doesn't matter what project it is, we need human element because human element connects us to people. And in the end, that's audience. So when you say human element, you can't lose.
Okay, that's interesting. So what do posters do better when there is people in them rather than art?
I mean, that's debatable. I think sometimes, like, okay, so you know what my favorite poster of all time is 1979 Ridley Scott's Alien.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And there's not a person in that. Like, but it's the most intriguing fucking poster on the planet. You know, it was this egg with like green shit coming out of it. And you're just like, what is that? And yeah, at the time, Sigourney Weaver, we didn't know who she was, blah, blah, blah. You know, it wasn't like they had big actors to it. But to me, that poster is memorable. Movie came out in 1979.
Yeah.
And I still remember that egg.
And so it's really leveraging the information gap.
Yeah.
And working to people.
Total. So, you know, like, and, you know, now, of course, alien posters show the monster all over the place. But back then, it was just an egg, man. So memorable. Now, the last few alien posters, no offense, maybe not quite as memorable. Like, because I've seen this alien thing a bazillion times, right?
You lose the mystery.
Yeah, you lose the mystery.
That, like I said, the information gap is gone at that point.
Total.
So
that's what I mean when I say memorable.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah.
Kenny,
yes,
thank you so much for joining us.
was a
Are
pleasure.
you going to come back and join us again, maybe next year or wherever we may meet? Would you come back
just
and
let
talk
us
about some other...
let me know.
Okay.
Glad to be here. Loving
Because
this can weather.
I know that I've got loads more questions. The guys behind the camera have loads more questions, and I'm sure people watching will have loads more questions.
Absolutely.
So we'll hope to see you in Cannes next year.
Yes, sir.
Thanks again for being with us.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. It was great. Great time. Thank you.
Voices in Entertainment is brought to you by the Global Entertainment Awards, the art of selling the story. Explore our website for more information on how to enter. And if you're new to this sector, please check out the entry requirements for the free-to-enter AMD Emerging Talent Award. Remember to follow us on LinkedIn and stay up to date of our latest news. You can find us at www.theglobalentertainmentawards.com. See you next time. And remember to click subscribe so you don't miss our next inspirational story.